The sun blazed over Mateo's small outrigger as he cast his net into the turquoise waters of Scarborough Shoal, Panatag, as his family called it for generations. This lagoon, once a symbol of peace and livelihood, now bristled with tension. On the horizon, a Chinese Coast Guard vessel loomed, its presence a daily threat. Mateo had heard stories, water cannons, dangerous chases, fishermen forced from their own waters. Yet he persisted, driven by duty to his family and hope in Manila's promises of protection. Each fish he caught felt like a quiet act of defiance, a claim to his nation's rights. The political games in distant capitals felt far away, but here, every cast of the net was a stand for sovereignty. He remembered his grandfather's tales, of storms weathered at the shoal, of camaraderie among Filipino fishermen. Now, foreign ships patrolled, and the air was thick with uncertainty. As the Chinese ship's horn blared, Mateo focused on his net, refusing to yield. He wondered if Manila's words would ever be enough to turn the tide. For now, he fished, hoping for a peaceful tomorrow at Panatag Shoal. In these contested waters, every day is a test of resolve. The South China Sea, artery of global trade, repository of oil and gas, has long been a crossroads of nations. In the 20th century, it became a battleground of claims. China, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Taiwan, and the Philippines all drew lines on maps. The most intense dispute, China's sweeping 9-dash line, cutting deep into the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. For Manila, this is not just about territory. It's about sovereignty, food security, and national pride. The 2012 Scarborough Shoal standoff marked a turning point. The Philippines withdrew, expecting diplomacy. China stayed, seizing control and blocking Filipino fishermen. Since then, Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia have patrolled aggressively, harassing Philippine supply missions and fishermen. These actions aim to normalize Chinese control, making every Filipino attempt to fish or resupply a test of will. For the Philippines, each confrontation is a reminder of the challenge, a regional giant versus a smaller nation defending its rights. The South China Sea is now a powder keg where a single incident could ignite a wider crisis. The struggle is not just over maps, but over the future of the region. Every day the balance of power is tested on these waters. The shoal stands as a symbol of loss, resistance, and the enduring hope for justice. The world watches, knowing the stakes are far greater than fish or oil. Here, sovereignty and survival are inseparable. The contest continues, wave after wave. In late 2024, the Philippines took a bold step. President Marcos Jr. signed the Philippine Maritime Zones Act and the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act. These laws were more than paperwork. They were a declaration of boundaries rooted in international law. Senate Majority Leader Tolentino called it the birth certificate of the West Philippine Sea. The laws defined territorial seas, contiguous zones, and the crucial 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, all aligned with UNCLOS. By codifying these rights, Manila shifted from protest to proactive legal defense. The Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act also set routes for foreign ships, asserting the Philippines' authority as an archipelagic state. These moves were designed to move the conflict from the sea to the courtroom, anchoring claims in global consensus, not just history. For the first time, the Philippines had a comprehensive legal framework to defend its maritime entitlements. The message was clear. Manila would fight for its rights with laws, not just words. The world took notice. The stakes had shifted from confrontation to legal contest. The Philippines was ready for the next round. Manila's legal moves drew swift support from its most powerful ally, the United States. The U.S. State Department praised the new laws, calling them a model for aligning national policy with international law. This was more than words. It was a diplomatic win and a warning to Beijing. Washington urged all regional players to follow UNCLOS, spotlighting China's refusal to do so. The U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty, reaffirmed in recent years, now explicitly covers attacks in the South China Sea. Joint patrols and military exercises have increased, signaling American commitment. For President Marcos Jr., U.S. backing is a strategic cornerstone, deterring aggression and strengthening Manila's hand. The dispute is no longer just local, it's a test of the rules-based order. The U.S. presence raises the stakes, making every incident a potential flashpoint. The alliance is both shield and signal. Manila is not alone. The world's eyes are on the region, watching for the next move. The message to Beijing: the Philippines has friends and the law is on its side. The contest is now global. The stakes have never been higher. China's response to Manila's new laws was swift and uncompromising. Beijing condemned the Philippine Maritime Zones Act, calling it illegal and void. In retaliation, China released a new map, this time drawing straight baselines around Scarborough Shoal, declaring it Chinese territory. The move was a direct challenge, escalating the legal standoff. China pledged more patrols, vowing to enforce its claims and block Philippine activity. The Chinese Coast Guard accused Manila of violations, painting itself as the defender. This is lawfare, using legal tools and maps to legitimize strategic goals, even if the world rejects the claims. Both sides now operate under conflicting legal frameworks, each insisting on its own version of reality. The dispute is deadlocked, with maps and laws as weapons. Every new line drawn deepens the divide. The battle is as much about narrative as it is about territory. The standoff continues, on paper and at sea. The Philippines counters China's narrative not just with modern law, but with history. The 1734 Murillo-Villard map, created by a Spanish priest, is Manila's cartographic trump card. It shows Scarborough Shoal, Panacot, named and known by Filipinos centuries ago, long before China's claims. Presented at The Hague, the map became a symbol of historical connection. Former Justice Antonio Carpio's research on hundreds of old maps further undermines Beijing's story. For centuries, Chinese maps marked Hainan as the southern border, never including the disputed shoals. This cartographic evidence challenges China's claim of ancient ownership. In this conflict, history is a battleground. Old maps become weapons, shaping the story of who truly belongs. The past is as fiercely contested as the sea itself. The struggle for the South China Sea is a struggle for the narrative. The Philippines' strongest legal weapon is the 2016 Hague ruling. The tribunal found no legal basis for China's 9-dash line or its claims of historical rights. It declared the disputed waters part of the Philippines' exclusive economic zone under UNCLOS. Scarborough Shoal was recognized as a traditional fishing ground for all, and China was found to have violated Philippine rights. China rejected the ruling, calling it waste paper, and refused to participate. The tribunal ruled on law, not sovereignty, but Beijing's defiance exposed the limits of international enforcement. The ruling stands as a global precedent, but without China's compliance, its power is symbolic. The world is left asking what happens when law and power collide. The answer remains uncertain. The legal victory is real, but the struggle continues on the water. The stakes are as high as ever. President Marcos Jr.'s tough stance on China is not without controversy at home. The legacy of former President Duterte, who favored closer ties with Beijing, still divides the nation. Duterte's recent detention and transfer to the International Criminal Court have ignited political turmoil. His supporters protest, framing his legal troubles as political persecution and rallying around his daughter Veronica. This drama complicates national unity on the West Philippine Sea. Some Filipinos support Marcos's assertiveness, others fear economic fallout or U.S. entanglement. Public opinion is split, patriotism clashes with pragmatism. Images of harassed fishermen stir anger, but worries about conflict linger. The Duterte affair adds another layer of complexity, making consensus elusive. The nation's voice is fractured even as the stakes rise. The struggle for the sea is mirrored by a struggle for unity at home. The path forward is anything but clear. The Philippines-China dispute is now a global flashpoint. The South China Sea's fate affects the entire Indo-Pacific and the world's economy. Manila's legal and diplomatic strategy could inspire other claimants, but the risk of escalation is ever present. The U.S.-Philippines alliance means any clash could draw in superpowers. A single miscalculation could spiral into conflict. President Marcos Jr. is committed to assertive transparency. China shows no sign of backing down. The contest is now a long-term test of wills, law versus power. The world watches, hoping this sea of troubles does not become a sea of conflict. The outcome will shape not just the fate of fishermen, but the future of the global maritime order. The stakes could not be higher.